Have you ever wondered what it feels like to stand in the very heart of power, where the world's richest gather not for business, but for a ritual that defines status itself? In Monaco, that ritual has a name, the Grand Prix. But before we step into this spectacle of speed and supremacy, let's pull back the curtain on the man called Zeus of Monaco, a billionaire who turned his fortune into a living legend. Welcome back to Inside the Billionaires, where we explore the private lives and fortunes of the world's richest. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss what comes next. From a modest Paris apartment to commanding penthouses, superyachts, and jets, Zeus's empire reveals one truth. In Monaco, wealth isn't just about money, it's about creating a myth the world cannot ignore. How does a boy from a modest Paris apartment rise to become the Zeus of Monaco, feared and admired by billionaires worldwide? His story begins not with privilege, but with persistence. Tobiana, the man the world would later call Zeus, grew up the son of a teacher and a clerk, far removed from the golden streets of Monte Carlo. By day, he studied real estate law. By night, he worked cafe shifts, saving every cent he could. That discipline became his weapon. With his first investment, a tiny studio apartment, he tasted the thrill of ownership. From there, he reinvested, studied market leverage, and took a gamble on a fintech startup just as Europe's property market was going digital. Within years, his shares were worth millions. But money was only fuel. What Tobiana truly wanted was transformation, the power to bend not just markets, but perception itself. By the time he crossed Monaco's borders in his 30s, he had already built the foundation of a legend. Here, he didn't just buy property, he bought identity, he bought myth. And soon, a storm would gather over the Mediterranean, one that would forever crown him as Zeus. But what ritual sealed his throne in Monaco's billionaire empire? The answer lies in a race unlike any other. What if I told you the Monaco Grand Prix is less about racing and more about crowning kings? For billionaires, this annual event is the ultimate ritual of status, a stage where wealth and power are displayed in their purest form. The narrow streets of Monte Carlo transform into a golden amphitheater. Every penthouse balcony becomes a royal box, every superyacht docked in Port Hercule turns into a floating palace, and every toast of champagne is a declaration of supremacy. Zeus of Monaco commands this ritual like no other. From his $150 million cliffside palace, he overlooks the most iconic turns of the circuit, watching as the engines scream beneath him. But his true theater lies on the water. Olympia, his 130-meter superyacht, anchors trackside and transforms into the most coveted seat in all of Monaco. By day, it hosts billion-dollar lunches where moguls and royals exchange whispers over caviar. By night, it becomes a masquerade ballroom. Velvet masks, crystal chandeliers, and guest lists that read like a summit of global power. Here, victory isn't about crossing the finish line. It's about who commands the spotlight, who seals the boldest deals, and who writes the headlines long after the engines have cooled. For Zeus, the Grand Prix is not entertainment, it is coronation. A ritual that reminds every rival, every oligarch, every royal, exactly who rules this fortress of wealth. But even when the roar of Formula One fades into silence, Zeus's empire does not rest. Because beyond the streets and the sea, his power soars into the skies. Imagine living in a palace suspended above the sea, where every sunrise turns into a private masterpiece. That's the reality of Zeus's $150 million penthouse, a fortress in the sky that locals whisper about as if it were a myth. Known as La Foudre, the lightning, it stands on Monaco's ancient cliff, commanding a view that sweeps from the harbor's shimmering yachts to the Grand Prix circuit itself. Inside, every detail is a statement of supremacy. Hallways lined with Picassos and a clandestine Banksy worth millions. 4 kitchens where Michelin chefs rotate like staff in a royal court. A rooftop pool with a floor that rises and falls at the touch of a tablet, transforming from cocktail lounge to Olympic lane in seconds. Even the furniture tells a story. Baroque originals reupholstered and microchipped to prove their provenance. But perhaps the true treasure lies deeper. Beneath the marble and glass hides a secret vault, not of gold, but of machines. a subterranean kingdom where horsepower is measured not in hundreds, but in thousands. And it's here, in this underground lair, that Zeus keeps the weapons of his next conquest. What kind of garage needs climate control, neon lighting, and a staff of white-gloved attendants? Only the kind that belongs to Zeus of Monaco. Hidden beneath his $150 million penthouse lies an underground vault of rolling thunder, a collection of supercars so rare that even billionaires stop to stare. Here, steel and carbon fiber sleep like ancient weapons waiting to be awakened. A black Lamborghini Aventador tuned for Monaco's hairpin turns. A LaFerrari hybrid, its scarlet body gleaming like molten fire. The futuristic Delage D12, a $3 million hypercar so scarce that YouTube reviewers can only dream of touching one. And in a corner, resting like a crown jewel, the Ferrari 250 GTO, one of just 36 in existence, insured for tens of millions. This isn't just a garage, it's a museum of motion, a temple where engineering meets art, and every ignition is a performance. Attendants start each engine weekly, ensuring no machine ever falls silent. In Zeus's world, even horsepower must remain alive. Yet, as breathtaking as his terrestrial arsenal is, it's nothing compared to the kingdom he commands upon the waves, because when Zeus leaves the road behind, he rules the sea. What if your yacht wasn't just a boat, but an empire afloat on the sea? For Zeus of Monaco, the answer is Olympia. A 130-meter superyacht that redefines what it means to rule the waves. Longer than a Premier League pitch, Olympia isn't transportation, it's sovereignty. Step aboard and you enter a world built for kings and gods. A 2-level spa carved with Himalayan salt walls. A glass-bottom pool that lets guests swim above the ocean itself. A concert lounge where virtuoso pianist Lang Lang once played for an audience of 14. At night, the helipad transforms into a private nightclub, with a retractable DJ booth rising like a stage from the sea. But Olympia is more than luxury, it's diplomacy. During the Cannes Film Festival, Zeus hosts billion-dollar film financing lunches on its deck. At Art Basel, collectors whisper over unframed canvases in its floating gallery. And during the Monaco Grand Prix, the yacht becomes the most coveted seat in the house, a glowing palace tethered to the trackside harbor. Yet even the sea cannot contain Zeus's reach, because when he tires of waves and wind, he looks to the skies and commands them to. What if generosity itself became a weapon of power? For Zeus of Monaco, philanthropy isn't just kindness, it's strategy. Beyond the glitz of his cars, jets, and yachts, he quietly channels millions into causes that shape how the world perceives him. His name appears on donor lists at Monaco's Rose Ball, the Monte Carlo Gala for Planetary Health, and the Amber Lounge charity, where a single auction dinner seat once raised over €1 million for coral reef restoration in the Maldives. Colleagues whisper about a multi-million-dollar trust dedicated to pediatric oncology in Paris, confirming that even in the world's wealthiest playground, Zeus finds ways to outshine rivals through giving. But here's the secret: every act of generosity also reinforces his myth. To donate is to display dominance, proof that his wealth flows so abundantly he can reshape destinies with a stroke of his pen. Philanthropy, in Zeus's hands, becomes another form of theater, a stage where the audience is global and every check signed is applause earned. It's the final piece of his empire, one that ensures his legend will outlive even the roar of his engines. But the real question remains. In Monaco, where billionaires battle for supremacy, can anyone ever dethrone Zeus? From the backstreets of Paris to the billionaires' playground of Monaco, Zeus has written his legend in thunder. His rise is more than a tale of fortune. It is the blueprint of how ambition, timing, and spectacle can create a myth. The 150-meter palace, the underground vault of supercars, the floating empire of Olympia, and his jets carving invisible paths across the skies, each is a symbol of power. But above all, it is the Monaco Grand Prix that seals his throne. For billionaires, the race is not about speed, but about supremacy. And in this ritual of wealth and influence, Zeus stands unrivaled. Yet, he knows that legacy cannot be built on luxury alone. That is why his acts of philanthropy, funding pediatric medicine, restoring coral reefs, and fueling charity galas ensure that his empire outlives even his own shadow. In Monaco, where every billionaire seeks the crown, Zeus is more than a player. He is the game itself. So the question is not whether Zeus is rich. The world already knows that. The question is, can anyone ever match the myth he has become? From a humble Paris apartment to commanding the Monaco Grand Prix, Zeus has transformed wealth into something far greater, a living myth. His penthouses, supercars, yachts, and jets are impressive, but it is the ritual of Monaco itself that crowns him above the rest. In a world where billionaires constantly fight for the spotlight, Zeus doesn't just play the game, he rewrites it. This is more than fortune. It's power, freedom, and legacy woven together into a story that even time cannot erase. And as long as thunder rolls over the Riviera, one name will echo above all others: Zeus of Monaco. If you enjoyed this journey inside the Billionaires, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories of the world's richest. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.